IGN's TJ Hafer or Leana Hafer or Len, I don't know. I can't keep up with these names that these people keep calling themselves, has gone on a rant on X pushing out their ideologies for all to see, and what ends up exposing this trans IGN activist lunatic as someone that is completely captivated by an ideology. Instead of caring about video games, we have them admitting to pushing propaganda and not caring about any kind of repercussions. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. And we have this Len character who I spoke about previously on the Dragon Age, the Veilguard, how this person gave it a 9 out of 10 and gave it additional points and propped it up because of the trans scars inclusion, has now gone on X to say that they would remove points from games if a game developer decides to, I don't know, follow what President Trump just put forward and changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Sorry, you're going to be following the actual geography of naming conventions? Nope, you're going to be losing points for that. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for the full article breaking down how Len, the trans activist over at IGN cosplaying as a journalist, has taken to X to say, hey, if any developers want to properly address what the Gulf of America actually is, then we're going to be losing some points on my review. It's becoming painfully obvious nowadays that the quote-unquote professional games journalism industry, and whoa buddy, do I use that phrase in extreme jest, boils down to just a circus of activists pretending to be journalists. Case in point, we now have this figure over at IGN called Len on X that's obviously, of course, now in protected mode, that went on a rant talking about how they were so upset about the Gulf of Mexico getting renamed to the Gulf of America that they said if any developers refer to it as the Gulf of America, it's losing points. I'll take a whole point off of a review score for any future map games that call it the Gulf of America. And they follow that up with saying, you think I'm joking? You think I want to do this forever? I can start some fires on the way out. Try and call my bluff, which, whoa, that almost sounds like a veiled threat of actually starting a fire at the place you're working at if they don't treat you the way you expect to be treated. You know, like bending the knee to your woke craziness and trans ideologies and propaganda making you a lunatic, all that stuff. If IGN decides to say, hey, bro, what you're doing isn't cool, you might start some fires on the way out. What do you mean by that? But they continue. Nobody has ever let this amount of soft power go to their head before, as far as I know. And looking through that series of unhinged tweets makes me think that years ago it would have been a very rare sight to see anybody outright admit that they are abusing their position, especially as a reviewer, to push their own personal views. Yet now, here we are. It's even more disturbing considering that Len is the very same journalist who shamelessly rewarded extra points to Veilguard for including trans representation and chest scars in a fantasy RPG where there is literally no need nor explanation for why they even exist in there in the first place. But it doesn't matter because as long as the ideology is getting pushed, sure, have some extra points on your review score. At the end of the day, you hear this stuff and you're like, why should anybody even care about what your scores are at the end of the day? And I know everyone's going to hear that and say, yeah, that's why no one trusts IGN. You can't spell ignorant with IGN. All these professional reviewers, we don't listen to them. I get all that. But taking a step back, it's like, why do they continue to go down this road? This is now the perception that the entire community has because they continue to employ people like Len that completely devalue the entire process of what a review of a game is supposed to be about in the first place. Len proves that ideological pandering is more important than the actual game quality when they play their games. I covered the story previously, like I said, and man, did it make IGN look really stupid. Like stupid enough to say, wow, IGN coincidentally gave this Dragon Age the Veilguard game to be reviewed to their trans reviewer. I mean, that's kind of a coincidence when you look at it. It's a little bit odd to think, oh, this game perfectly fits with this person to push their ideology. And okay, you want to say, yeah, that's what we do. We want to make sure the people that enjoy the style of games they play matches what they play. Okay, then you need to be very forthcoming with your review saying, hey, I'm trans, I have all these weird ideologies, and I push all this stuff forward, and my life is completely screwed up with all this stuff. Just so you know, you're probably not going to agree with my score, so at least we know where they're coming from in the first place. But no, they hide all that stuff. You have to do miles and miles digging research to find all this information on these people, because it's not about the game at the end of the day. It's about pushing the agenda, the ideology, the message. Len's behavior here is a prime example of why traditional gaming outlets like IGN are completely losing any relevance whatsoever, while YouTubers and independent websites out there continue to rise in popularity as the true voices of the gaming community. Gamers don't want to be lectured by activists masquerading as reviewers. They want honest, unbiased opinions about games. I genuinely take a step back from all this and can't understand why it's so hard for these outlets to understand what the issue is with them. Places like IGN have long since stopped prioritizing quality journalism in favor of hiring activists, and it's gonna make everybody wonder, why is that? Who's in charge of making these decisions? And the people that are hiring these people, who put them in the position to enable them to bring like-minded people into the company? These lunatics are destroying our hobby from the inside out. It's no wonder that IGN and other mainstream outlets are circling the drain, eating themselves alive with their own activism instead of hiring real, actual journalists who actually care about the game that they're playing. This is exactly why the YouTube gaming scene continues to dominate. Authenticity and passion will always win out over corporate-backed propaganda. And honestly, speaking of the corporate-backed propaganda, it wouldn't surprise me if these journalists like Len were somehow found to be funded by the US aid or some other politically motivated and driven organization similar to what was discovered about that $8 million going to Politico to assist in pushing the anti-gamer Gamergate narrative that I talked about in a previous video. And looking at the situation for what it is, sure, we don't have any direct lines right now to it, but we didn't have any direct lines to Gamergate before this whole USA thing happened. And now that we see that, it's like, okay, now we have an explanation as to how people were getting money from at least one source to push Gamergate. And you got to take a step back and look at that and say, well, if they're getting money for the source to push Gamergate, what's stopping it from a source coming in to enable activists in a medium that they do not belong to? Mr. 0303 in reply on the SmashJT.com article said, "It is the Gulf of America, and this dude is a man. Speaking the truth is the first step. He is the perfect avatar for the gaming journo. Corrupt, incompetent, and mentally ill." And Python Bacon said, "This dude doesn't know which bathroom to use. Why would I care about his reviews?" Which speaks to a much greater point with all of this, is the game industry is collapsing onto itself right now, and they have no one to blame but themselves. Actual gamers care about real reviews from real people, authentic, truth-telling, and pushing the information that they care about. Again, I really don't understand why this is so hard for an outlet like IGN to understand, but here we are. Until IGN, and let's be honest, many of these other quote-unquote professional outlets make real changes, starting with firing Len with extreme prejudice, they're going to continue to not be taken seriously in the entire gaming community. And I know anytime you say someone needs to lose their job, there's always going to be that cohort of people that come in saying, oh, you're just trying to cancel this person, you're trying to ruin their lives. And I'm taking a step back from that and saying, no, this person sucks at their job. They are clearly not performing it at a competent level and exposing their bias for all to see. Why should we be enabling this and perpetuating the madness? They were hired to do a job to review games, and they are telling everyone they refuse to do said job, at least to the level of professionalism from the professional games industry. And until these companies start taking accountability for the people that they employ, it's going to continue to spiral. Len's words clearly mean nothing to anybody and stands on activism instead of gaming quality. The gaming community is at a crossroads with stuff like this, but the pendulum is swinging back hard towards a decent level of normalcy, and we either let these activists burn the industry to the ground or we continue pushing back to reclaim it. And honestly, so far, so good. It's going really well, as much as they get upset, kick and scream, and cry on the internet all they want. At the end of the day, genuine gamers gravitate towards genuine gamers. They don't care about politics. They don't want activism. We don't want injected ideologies pushed in front of our faces, whether it's in the game itself or the reviews that are covering it. None of it is welcome in this industry. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com. I will link this article in the description below. If you appreciate what I'm doing, hit that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing. Smash Smash